Polcheninoff, and welcome to Sure Things. Well, we're now approaching the middle of August, and on everyone's mind, besides missing our warm summer days, which we will soon, is what's coming up in the fall. And that means the students going back to school, parents rushing them out the door, all those memories we have, and a lot of you are wondering what will that look like this year as we face our time of the pandemic. Today, I'm so happy to welcome a good friend, Jan Perruccio, Superintendent of Schools for Old Saybrook. Jan and I actually go way back. So welcome, Jan.
Thank you.
So glad that you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for asking me on.
We tried to get together way before, probably even in May, or it was early.
It was early.
With the whole pandemic, just so we could discuss what schools were doing and what teachers were doing. Anyway, I'm glad that we're at this point, that we have some decisions made and we can talk about next steps. But again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I thought we could start today by just going back a little bit and talking about that monumental spring that we had of 2020 and what that looked like for Old Saybrook.
Yeah, it was. I think what it looked like for Old Saybrook is probably what it looked like for most school districts. It was just like someone turned off a light switch. We saw this illness, coming out of, the larger urban areas like New York and California, and we realized that there was something coming our way that we had never seen before, but we really only had about 2 weeks to ponder that, and then literally 24 hours to make a decision about what to do about schools. The superintendents were all called together for a meeting, and Dr. Carter from the state was on that call, and he said something really important to us. We were grappling with the do we close, don't we close. We were still trying to decide, do we keep going with extracurricular activities at that point? Yeah. And he said, all I can tell you is that in 1918, when school districts closed their schools, more people in the community, survived. There were fewer illnesses, there were fewer deaths. And to me, that was a moral call. And I think my fellow superintendents all felt the same way, and we made a decision on a Wednesday night to close on Friday. Some stayed open until Monday. Fortunately, I had 2 professional development days, so we had teachers and no students, and so they were able to do some training. Like
you had
2 days of training.
Pull it together.
Right, because they'd had no training. I mean, some of our high school teachers had Google Classroom set up. They had been working that. But our elementary school teachers, that was not really a format that they used very regularly. So we had at least those 2 days. Yeah. Unfortunately, our students went home on a Wednesday thinking they were coming back on Monday, and they never returned to their school. So there was a real sense of loss for the students.
Did they have to come back and get materials? Or Did you have to open it up?
We had to coordinate and organize that. We had to get materials out of lockers. I mean, some things didn't get returned until the end of the year. But we also had to give out technology because we were not a one-to-one district. So we had our IT department did amazing work, pulled every laptop they could out of every site in the school building so we could get them out to students. Yeah. And we had teachers just grab their desktops right off the desks and take them home.
Just go.
So it was a flurry of activity, and then interestingly enough, the state asked us not to move to distance learning, so we spent a number of days doing supplemental working, just providing things for students to do. And then the state gave the go-ahead to move to distance learning. And then slowly, as the spring, developed, we got more and more guidance from the state about, that's the end, that's a wrap for the year, and the 180 days is out the window, and just all the things that I and you as an educator, all the things that we've always assumed were written in stone, changed overnight.
So they changed, did they change the number of days last year too?
Yeah, the 180-day rule, we were kind of told to get as close as possible because, there were some districts who couldn't get up and running on distance learning as quickly as we were able to. And so they were really struggling and had to modify it for them because they would have hit the June 30th mark, which, as you know, is also state law. Yes. So there was just no other option. We just watched it unravel. So it was a very stressful, very hectic spring.
Yeah, I can't imagine with how many students do you have in your school system?
About 1,200.
Yeah, about 1,200. Which I can't imagine with the school system. It's interesting. I was teaching an adjunct class for St. Joe's at that time, and I remember I had a Tuesday class, and I had students saying, "Well, I'm not sure I can get this project done because our schools might close." Right. And we were all talking about it, thinking, "Could that really happen?" Right. And I didn't see them again in class. It was all, everybody went. Yeah, everyone went virtual or or
Yeah.
to other packets or whatever way they had
Yeah.
to go. Did you, when you talked about the technology piece, I'm curious about that because it wasn't a one-to-one school. Did you have to go out and purchase additional? And was that in fact, I was thinking of all the schools that had to do that, was that in fact a problem to try to get a hold of that?
It has been a problem. The supply chain is, in technology and PPE, it's all been very much hit or miss. We were fortunate in that we had a lot of technology in our schools. It wasn't all brand new. It wasn't all what we would have liked to have given in an ideal situation, but we could put a device in students' hands. And we had some students who said they didn't need it. We quickly surveyed, and we heard from some students that they didn't need it. But we did have to kind of raid the schools and find all the technology, give it out, and then we started ordering technology because we realized we were probably in a long-term situation. We were fortunate. We decided to open up a recovery committee within 2 weeks of closing down. Not because we felt we were going to be getting back to school anytime soon, but because we realized we had to think beyond the pandemic. We had to think what will come next when this time is over. So we started thinking PPE and technology back in March. So we got in the queue faster.
Oh, you did?
And by getting in the queue faster, our IT director was able to get his hands on some Chromebooks.
Yes.
And he has since been able to order more. And we had our business manager get hold of masks and gloves and things. So we started to stockpile.
Oh, you were really ahead of the
Right
curve
away.
on
Yeah.
that.
Again, I think if you're a historian, you study what happened in the past and you learn not to make as many of the same mistakes again. So it was a challenging spring, and the only way we could make it better was thinking of the future and how to be prepared for the next phase.
You've worked with other superintendents during the whole process regionally?
Yes.
Is that how it's been? So.
Yes, so we have a number of standing regional superintendent groups, and they all come under the auspices of CAPS, the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, who's run by someone who is, talk about a big thinker. She's terrific. And then she, Fran Rabinowitz, and she helped us coordinate some things, but also we have the Middlesex Shoreline Associations. I'm the chairperson of that this year, and then we have this Southeastern Connecticut. So really, we're talking about all the superintendents from Guilford down to the Rhode Island border on phone calls. We're still meeting once a week and have all summer, just to keep each other, up on what's going on, because the changes are coming from Hartford so quickly, new guidance, new information, that you need all of these folks to kind of keep you up to speed. So we even closed schools together.
You did, so it was a universal decision, so that way it did look cohesive.
It did, because the state was not going to direct us to close at that point. They said it was a local decision, and our thinking was, after listening to Dr. Carter, it doesn't make much sense for Old Saybrook to close if Westbrook and Old Lyme aren't, or if Region 4 isn't. We've got to do this together to safeguard our communities, and so we stayed together as much as possible in the closing.
So when you closed, you had your recovery team set up, so you were looking ahead, which was wonderful. What happened over the summer as far as summer school? Did you have programs running, or was that also virtual?
We did a survey to parents and asked what they wanted, and then we did end up bringing in some students, a small number of students, about 12, into our schools, and we had teachers willing to come in this summer and work with them, and I would say for the most part that went very well. We also had summer school online. We actually offered an enrichment program for students that was just interest-based, allow them to work on some credits for the older students and just keep kids engaged with school. That was done during the last 2 weeks of June, and then starting in July, after the 4th of July holiday, we started our regular summer school program, though nothing's regular anymore.
No, it's the new normal, right?
Yeah, the new normal. So we had a lot of students at home. We had a few students in our schools. It was a great opportunity for us to work with those students who are best served in our schools, and a great opportunity for teachers to figure out things that work really well. So
I was thinking that too. You've gone through so much when you think this started in March.
Right.
As well as other districts, with what works and what could be better. So now as we go ahead into the fall, you have all that added information, which is wonderful. And you had to, every district had to hand in 3 different plans to the state. Was that also a plan that you worked on cohesively with the other districts?
There was a lot of help between
Yeah.
superintendents. We really helped each other figure some of the more complex components out, but the team inside Old Saybrook, and I'm sure the team inside all of the districts, worked really hard all summer. There were no vacations for administrators and IT people and assistants, just there working hard all summer. And the plan that we put together, you're right, it was 3 plans. We had to put a plan together for a full opening, a hybrid that would allow us to bring about 50% of our students in, and then a full closing. And they were all due July 24th, and we were directed at that time that we would be opening in full. That was the state directive. Then on July 27th, the governor announced that we could open in hybrid.
Oh my goodness, so you had like a few days of thinking, this is it.
It was a weekend. It was
a weekend. What a weekend, I'm sure. Oh my goodness,
But
and then
you know,
it changed.
not unexpected, and I think that the governor and the state was responding to superintendents' concerns in some cases. You know, some of the bigger districts saying, not sure we can pull this off, and even there's even one large district now that has said that they're going to have to go remote to start the year. They just can't make it work right now. We are going to a full opening on October 5th, but we will open in hybrid on September 1st. And our thought behind that is we watched other places of business open up in a rather deliberate way, slowly, get people comfortable, get people back in the building with smaller groups. And I do think that that's going to make a difference as to how many staff members feel comfortable coming back and how many parents feel comfortable coming back. We've done our second summer survey for families. It's not done yet. We'll close it Thursday morning, but we're at almost 90% of the families saying they're going to return their children to schools this year, with the others staying remote, as the state says, temporarily. And we will continue to work with those students.
So when you say that, when you say the state says temporarily, will the state have a cutoff point to say, okay, we've given it time, now that's it for virtual, everyone's in? Do you think that actually might happen this year?
The guidance that we received recently from the state is that temporarily is defined as until different health information is extended to us. But what we have learned about this whole thing is don't assume that the last word is the last word. There's more coming.
There's certain things, there's always change, right? Thank you, Jen. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to talk more about Old Saybrook Schools with Jan Perruccio. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly. It is my job to teach employees the responsible way to sell both tobacco and electronic cigarettes. As of October 1st, 2019, a customer must be at least 21 years old to purchase a tobacco product or an electronic cigarette. The law also says all employees must card anyone who appears to be under the age of 30 years old. The free updated prevention education program will be available on October 1st, 2019 at cttobaccotraining.com.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Hi, welcome back. I'm joined today by Jan Perruccio, Superintendent of Schools for Old Saybrook. And we're having a very interesting conversation about what it's going to look like fall of 2020. We had just been talking about the plan that you have put forward that will start the year.
Right.
What was there a time frame between the time you handed in your 3 plans and the time the state said, okay, now which of these you're going to implement? Did they give you a time frame on that?
So we turned them in on the 24th of July. On the 27th, we were told that we no longer had to open in full, that we could open as a hybrid. And then we were asked to turn around our response on how we were going to open a few days later.
Okay, so it was quick.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, because we have a hybrid opening, but it's only for a set period of time, I believe we're considered to be in a full reopening. which is great. And I think that many districts took advantage of that flexibility. You know, it's, you know how it is to run a school district and a school system. So just to get everybody used to everything's new, from how you get on the bus, get off the bus, go into class, what you do when you get in class, where you sit, how we teach, everything really has changed significantly.
But that's considered a full reopening.
It is.
Okay, so that's so interesting, because I had a conversation with someone else and they were feeling very relaxed and confident, saying, oh, I'm not worried, my son's going to go to school 5 days a week, they're having a full reopening, and they just found out it's a hybrid. It wasn't Old Saybrook, but another, and so it's interesting about that term.
Yes.
In her mind it was going to be 5 days a week.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And you talked about summer school. Going ahead, when you talk about all these new policies, getting on the bus, going down the hallway, how will that be communicated to students? Is that just the first few days of school, we're going to go over these policies, or does something go out ahead of time?
Lots of things have been going on our website. There are archived videos, and we've been breaking down the training into very small bits so we can keep the videos really short. So there's a hand washing video, there's a mask wearing video, there is a walking down the halls video, where we are in classrooms and what classrooms will look like. And obviously these are instructional, but they're also meant to give students and staff and parents some comfort as to what to expect, because we can't do our usual tours of buildings and those things. We need to somehow reach out to them. So the next ones we're working on right now are getting on and off the bus, and going into the buildings where they're going to be entering and exiting buildings, so we don't have large crowds of students sort of hanging around together. We'll keep them as separate as possible in their cohorts. So we've done it through a series of videos. We've also done parent calls. We were doing them periodically, but now we're doing parent calls with the superintendent and the other administrators and our director of nursing once a week. So what is that? Is that like a robocall that goes out? No, they get on and it's like a webinar, and they can just participate. They can put questions in the chat room. We talk about topics that they've expressed concern or interest in, and we just do about 20-25 minutes of talk, and then we just allow them to ask questions for the rest of the hour. And I think that's given a lot of parents an opportunity. Plus, we've been doing our surveys, so parents have had a chance, and staff have had a chance to answer questions about concerns and questions there. And now we're doing staff meetings on a regular basis too, so that they can call in and listen and pose questions in the chat room about different anything and everything.
Were there any surprises on the staff survey?
No, not at all. No, I think that our staff, has the same amount of concern, fear, excitement as everybody else. It's mixed feelings. People want to come back to work. They want to come back and be with the students. Running a school system with no students is no fun. Oh, no. So everybody wants to be back, but everybody has a lot of anxiety about all the information that's floating around out there. But I think what I've been saying to everybody is, look, we're in a good place with numbers in the state, and if we can all work together, wear our masks, do our social distancing, we can keep schools open. We can move forward, and that is certainly what we want to do.
What about sports or clubs? What's happening with that in the fall?
Again, an ever-changing, shifting sands. It's not official yet, but I saw in the newspaper yesterday that the football committee of the CIAC is going to recommend that football be moved to the spring. That has not been voted on by the full CIAC committee yet, but and I don't know what the outcome will be there, but of course that leaves us with lingering questions about what happens to spring sports. The spring sports, as you know, already lost a season in the spring. Will students be able to play football? Is that even possible to play football and play, the spring sports that they might want to play, like lacrosse or baseball? So that is up in the air. There's been no public announcement about other fall sports, but of course we have concerns because we know we're being advised not to use locker rooms, showers, things like that. So you've got a distance on buses. So we're waiting to get more guidance from CIAC, and I have to say that the executive director, Glenn Longarini, has been great about communicating. He's even coming to meet with Shoreline superintendents, that group I was talking about earlier, this week to just get our thoughts.
Because that also, that has to be a cohesive decision because of the scheduling. You can't.
Right. So for us, it needs to be all the Shoreline ADs, principals, and superintendents being on the same page. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart on its own. Yeah.
And for the calendar year, do you have, I know last year they waived the 180 days.
Right.
Is that the same for this year as well? This year, is it, do the students have to be in 180 days, or will they?
The executive order that waived the 180 days ceases to exist in I think the second week in September. But we did get from the Commissioner of Education an ability to drop it to 177 days to front load professional development for staff, teachers, paraeducators. We didn't have to take advantage of that in Old Saybrook. We put 3 days up in front, plus we built in half days so that students can go home early. Most of our buildings aren't air conditioned. We wanted to send them home in the heat, especially wearing masks. So we'll have teachers do more professional development then, and then we just flip-flopped a student and a teacher day. So we will have our full 180 days. That's the plan right now.
That's and as you said, and that's the plan right now.
That's all I say.
I was going to ask you too, because you said October 5th is the time that you want to go.
Right.
That's it. Everybody
that's our
in.
plan.
That's your plan. What metrics would you look at to judge that perhaps that's full steam ahead, or maybe not?
Right. Throughout this crazy situation, we have had an opportunity to develop quite a great relationship with Connecticut River Area Health District. That's our regional health district. And the shoreline is covered by a number of different health districts, in Old Saybrook, and I think Clinton share this health district, as well as Essex and Haddam. And so the folks there have been terrific about advising us, and they've been keeping up, and they've been going to their own Department of Public Health meetings and keeping up on what is best practice. We also were issued an addendum to the reopen plan from the state just this past week, addendum 4, I believe it is, that talks about what metrics we're supposed to be using. Obviously, as an educator, I'm not going to make that decision by myself. I'm going to be working with the health district and saying, what are you seeing for increases or decreases? Are we seeing something unusual? And of course, it's compounded. They've also got their eye on the flu and the flu season, so they'll be watching all of those numbers. We will be feeding them information about what we're seeing in our population. Are we seeing fevers? Are we seeing stomach illnesses, strep throat? All of the typical. We do that a lot, especially with flu, but now we're going to be looking for anything that would indicate that we have other concerns that they need to be weighing in, and we will be sending those to them regularly.
Does part of your plan, if so many students in a school have tested positive, then you need to have them stay home or the school closed?
Yeah, we have guidance again from the state, addendum 5 this time, about when to send students and staff home if they're exhibiting, if they've been exposed to something, or if they're exhibiting. It's all very well spelled out, and the state has been great about posting all of these for the public to see on their website. So no one needs to be in the dark about how those decisions will be made. Again, though, we're going to make all of those with the Connecticut River Area Health District as our medical advisors, and we have our own district medical advisor too. We've been consulting with him.
Oh, so you have a lot of support in that area.
A lot of support, thankfully, because as I said, my medical degree is not even in the mail.
No, it's not on your wall as well.
Right.
And so I imagine the funding for the preparation for this, between all the other materials you need. How is that going for you?
It is, as you might imagine, incredibly expensive. And of course, plexiglass and those things all went up in price, and PPE, masks went up in price, so it has been an expensive proposition. Of course, purchasing technology so that we can send students home with computers or devices this fall has also been costly. So we have an operating budget that's supported by the local Board of Education and the town of Old Saybrook. We're very fortunate in that regard that we have that kind of support. And we were able to use some money that was in our funds in 1920 to purchase some technology. Now we find ourselves, though, in a very unique place in our budget, someplace that we're not used to being at this time of year, having expended some accounts pretty significantly. There was some CARES Act money that came to us in the spring. It was about $100,000. So every time we talk to the state and they'd say, use your CARES Act money, we would say, well, we've used our CARES Act money. And now the governor has said there will be some additional funds coming, but we have not seen the formula. We don't know how much money Old Saybrook will get. But it has been, we figured out that it's about $2.5 million between last spring and this year.
Just for
just responding to COVID.
Oh my goodness, wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, you must be excited that a lot of those big decisions at this time are made, although they might change.
That's right. That's exactly true.
But at least that part you can see moving forward, which is wonderful.
I'm just most excited about getting the students back in the building.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of communication with parents all the way through.
Oh yeah.
As it goes, yeah. But I want to thank you again, Jan, for joining us
Thanks,
here,
Mary.
and of course wish you the best as you start your new school year.
Thank
with
you.
Staffing's okay too?
Yes.
With staffing?
Yeah, we've been
Good
doing
for you.
okay. So far, so good. Looking for bus monitors, but
well, there you go. The plug is out there for bus monitors. Because I can't imagine between, some staff that honestly might have to stay home
Yes.
for other reasons,
Right.
And staff that might have decided to retire because,
Yes.
oh well.
Yep, we're filling those positions as quickly as we can.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, thank you again, and I wish you a good start to
Thanks,
the school
Mary.
year. It's good to see you again.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and we'll see you next time on Sure Things.